Have you ever wondered how photographers create stunning background blur in their pictures? This magic is brought to you by the concept of depth of field. Depth of field, in its simplest terms, is the portion of a photograph that appears sharp and in focus. This photographic phenomenon contributes significantly to the aesthetic quality of a photo, and is a fundamental tool in the arsenal of photographers around the globe. It's the play of depth of field that brings a photo to life, giving it a three-dimensional appeal on a two-dimensional medium. It's the magic that makes a subject stand out against a softly blurred background, or keeps a sweeping landscape in sharp detail from foreground to horizon. It's the tool that can isolate a single flower in a field or capture every intricate detail of a bustling cityscape. Intrigued? Let's dive deeper into the world of depth of field. Let's talk about aperture, the opening in the lens that lets light into the camera. This is the gateway of light, the portal that allows illumination to enter and interact with the camera sensor. The size of the aperture is instrumental in controlling the depth of field in your photographs. Think of aperture as the pupil of an eye. In bright conditions, the pupil contracts, allowing less light to enter, which is akin to a smaller aperture in a camera lens. In darker scenarios, the pupil expands, letting in more light, mirroring a larger aperture. These adjustments are not just about light control, they also significantly influence the depth of field. When the aperture is large, meaning the f number is small, more light floods in, creating a shallower depth of field. This results in a sharp focus on the subject, with the background gently blurring into obscurity. It's like painting with light, where the subject is the star, and the backdrop, a soft, hazy canvas. On the other hand, when the aperture is small, the f number is large, less light enters, creating a deeper depth of field. This allows more of the scene to be in focus. It's like observing a grand landscape where every detail, near and far, is crisply rendered for an immersive viewing experience. This play of light and focus, directed by the aperture, is a dance of control and creativity. The aperture's size becomes the choreographer of your photographic composition, guiding the depth of field, directing the focus, and shaping the light's interaction with your scene. Whether you want to isolate a single rose in sharp relief against a blurry garden or capture the intricate details of a sprawling cityscape, the aperture is your tool. It's your paintbrush, your director's chair, your conductor's baton. Just as a musician must understand his instrument, a photographer must understand the aperture. It's more than a mechanical function, it's an artistic choice, a decision that can dramatically change the story your image tells. Remember, the size of your aperture is key to controlling the depth of field. It's your gateway to the world of light, depth, and focus, a critical component in the art of photography. Next up is focal length, another critical factor in depth of field. As we delve deeper into the world of photography, the role of focal length becomes increasingly clear. It's like the vision of the lens, determining how much of the scene your camera captures and how it portrays the depth of field. Imagine focal length as the eyes of your lens. Longer focal lengths, like those found in telephoto lenses, are akin to eagle eyes, focusing on distant objects with pinpoint precision. This creates a shallower depth of field, drawing attention to the subject while blurring the surrounding details. It's like gazing out into the horizon, your eyes fixated on a single point while everything else fades into a dreamy haze. On the flip side, shorter focal lengths, common in wide-angle lenses, give your lens a more panoramic vision. They capture a broader view, creating a deeper depth of field. This is comparable to taking in an entire landscape at a glance, with each tree, each rock, each blade of grass in sharp focus. This deeper depth of field brings a sense of vastness and detail to your photos, inviting the viewer to explore every inch of the frame. But why does focal length have such a significant impact on depth of field? Well, it's all about perspective. Longer focal lengths magnify the subject, making it appear larger and closer. This magnification also amplifies the blur, creating a more pronounced separation between the in-focus subject and the out-of-focus background. Shorter focal lengths, however, minimize this magnification, keeping more of the scene in focus and creating a more immersive, detailed image. In essence, your choice of focal length can dramatically alter the story your photo tells. A long focal length can highlight a single poignant detail, while a short focal length can encapsulate the grandeur of a scene. It's about choosing the right tool for the narrative you want to convey. So remember, your lens focal length can make a world of difference in your depth of field. It's not just about what you see, but how you see it, and the focal length is your key to unlocking this visual potential. Now let's consider the distance between camera and subject. Imagine you're standing in a quiet, tranquil forest, camera in hand. The light filters through the leaves, casting a soft glow on the bark of a tree in front of you. You want to capture the intricate details of the bark, making it the star of your frame while the rest of the forest fades into a gentle blur. This is where distance comes into play. In the realm of photography, distance isn't just about physical space. It's a critical factor that influences the depth of field. The closer you are to your subject, the shallower the depth of field becomes. In other words, if you're standing just a few feet away from that tree, the bark will be sharply in focus while the background will blur into a dreamy haze. This is often referred to as a shallow depth of field. On the other hand, if you step back, increasing the distance between you and the tree, the depth of field becomes deeper. More of the scene will come into focus, allowing you to capture the broader landscape. The bark, the tree, the surrounding foliage, all will be captured with equal clarity, creating a deep depth of field. But why does this happen? It's all about perspective. When you're close to a subject, the lens sees a smaller portion of the background relative to the subject, which makes it appear blurred. As you move away, the lens sees more of the background relative to the subject, bringing it into sharper focus. This doesn't mean one is better than the other. Whether you want a shallow or deep depth of field depends entirely on what you're aiming to capture. If you want to isolate your subject and create a sense of intimacy, get closer. If you want to capture the grandeur of a landscape, step back. So remember, when you're out there with your camera, distance is more than just a measurement. It's a tool that can help shape your vision and bring your photographic story to life. Distance can be your friend or foe when playing with depth of field. Ever heard of bokeh? It's the beautiful blur you see in out-of-focus areas of a photo. This enchanting effect is not a mere accident, but an intentional play of light and focus that photographers use to create a sense of depth and dimensionality. Bokeh is an aesthetic quality that comes into play when your depth of field is shallow. With the background appearing soft and blurred, your subject stands out, sharp and clear. It's like painting with light, where the blur is your canvas and the subject is your masterpiece. It's not just about blurring the background, though. The beauty of bokeh lies in the quality of that blur. A pleasing bokeh effect can transform ordinary background elements into dreamy, abstract shapes of light and color, making the ordinary extraordinary. So next time you pick up your camera, dare to blur. Bokeh can add a whole new layer of beauty to your photography. Depth of field isn't just a technical concept, it's a creative tool. It's like a paintbrush in the hands of an artist, a pen in the grip of a writer. It's a tool that allows photographers to craft a narrative, evoke emotion, and elevate their work from mere documentation to art. Consider its creative uses. Depth of field can be a spotlight, highlighting a subject and setting it apart from its surroundings. A shallow depth of field achieved with a larger aperture or a longer focal length can isolate a subject in sharp focus against a beautifully blurred backdrop. It's like a stage whisper in a bustling theater, drawing the audience's attention to a single actor amidst the chaos. On the other hand, a deep depth of field can create a sense of vastness and grandeur. It can pull the viewer into a sweeping landscape or a bustling cityscape, every element from the foreground to the horizon sharp and detailed. It's like a choir singing in harmony, every voice contributing to the symphony. But just like any art, mastering the use of depth of field takes practice and experimentation. It's about understanding not just the how, but the why. Why does a certain scene look better with a shallow depth of field? Why does a particular subject stand out more with a deep depth of field? It's about training your eye to see not just what's in front of you, but how it could look through the lens of your camera. So don't be afraid to experiment with different aperture settings, focal lengths, and distances. Take the same shot with different settings and see how it changes the mood and impact of the image. Look at the work of other photographers and analyze how they've used depth of field to enhance their images. Remember, photography is a journey, not a destination. It's about constantly learning, experimenting, and pushing the boundaries of your creativity. So go out there, experiment, and create your own stunning, blur-filled masterpieces.